society has all these patterns. I saw them. I said, well, society expects me to do certain things. So all my friends and I were sitting in the swimming pool late August, our last teenage time together. And one of the friends says, hey, what are we all going to be doing in the future? And they're all like wondering. And they looked at me and I go, well, society expects me to go to college, find a girl, get married, have a kid. And so I'm just going to try that because I don't know what it's like. And since society teaches us, I'm going to see what society is like. I literally said that to my friends. All my friends were like, whoa, because that's the last thing they expected me to say.
Hi, I'm Mike Catchwella. Welcome to this episode of The Prisoner's Dilemma, where I'm so happy to have Casey Kochmer, who is I consider a Taoist teacher, and I was fortunate to have met him many years ago when I was going through some emotional turmoil. And Casey is joining us from the Big Island.
Big Island.
Is that right, Casey?
Yep.
Yeah, but the concept of the podcast, if I haven't already stated it, it's about finding a balance or striking a balance between the passion for your art or your craft and paying the rent. And maybe to segue into what you do, Casey, is that I was very impressed with your site when I ran across it. That it was so helpful and well put together, but not like professionally produced in a way that would turn me off anyway, and I thought that was an excellent balance, and then I contacted you through your site. Your videos are really some of the only videos that would come up that made sense about this midlife transition, which some people approach as a crisis. And I've always heard it termed that way, but you kind of introduced this way to turn it into more like a transition, into a
transformation.
And transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought, yeah, that's great. It's not this clinical psychology that you can find online, plenty of it, or this kind of cliche of the midlife crisis, the guy having an affair and getting a red sports car. Please, Casey, I'll hand it over to you. Could you talk about yourself,
So
please?
my site is personaldao.com. It's easy to find. I help people strive against that work balance versus soul balance that you mentioned. We do that all the time because that's a challenge, because it comes down to living to your essence. So I often will say my teachings are about kindness, but kindness is to be in essence. And it is so easy to lose touch to your essence, to survive, to be pushed in another story, to help others. And so one of the balances we have in our life is being in our essence and surviving. And if you don't know your essence, then you're going to default to surviving. If you don't know your essence, you're going to default to being pushed by others to be something you're not. So ironically, I do this all the time, helping people be in their essence. And that's more complicated and more beautiful than people realize, because we have layers and layers of essence. We have layers of stories because we're human. And to be a human is to extend our instincts with stories. And so a lot of people live in their story, but they may not live in their story. They may live in the story they were told to be in, or grew up to be in, or worked to be in. And so breaking free of stories or taking control of the narrative for some people is part of the process. For part of the process for some people is fixing the story. For other people is getting back on the rails of the story. I mean, there's a lot of different options and paths, but it all comes down to being true to your essence. And in midlife, that's the point where people wake up, adolescents too, but there are points in life where we wake up to be more our own person. And those are the correction points. Those are the transformation points. And so, yeah, we deal a lot with this. And so, do you have any standard questions you want to start with?
Um, uh, I may, but first, I just wanted to point out something else you said. Maybe it was on your website, maybe it's something you said to me during one of our calls. But this idea, and so you have this essence, right? Your
Hmm.
essence, and you spend your first half of your life almost like forgetting that and getting indoctrinated into society and doing
Hmm.
what your family tells you to do and do what you need to do to earn a living. Um, and at some point, that's going to end, and you're going to have to disengage from all that and from that programming and society and transform into, hopefully back into your essence is what I'm hearing, right? Right,
Right.
Casey?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and it takes a lot of work to do that. A lot of like examining your mindsets, changing your mindsets, meditation and things like that to kind
It
of get
can.
out of that, the programming, I think.
Well, ironically, it's case by case. Sometimes it's the easiest thing to do. And some
Mm,
people just get that inspiration and they go on the path. Lots of times it's hard. And one of the reasons it can be hard is we live in a very abusive culture. And abusers are vampires. They need their victims. And so if a victim wakes up, it's not easy to escape someone who's purposely shaping you, purposely controlling you, purposely teaching you to put yourself down.
mm,
So one of the hard paths is escaping abuse or escaping abusive cultural tendencies to force you to stay in that bad job. And that's harder to do than people realize to break free. Then there's other challenges. The other challenge, for instance, is if you grew up to be a good girl, which a lot of people are taught to be, or a good boy, you don't want to create ripples. And so then you don't experiment, you don't break out of the boxes, you don't really try because you're trying to be good. And that's a trap. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to break out boundaries. We're allowed to stir things up and make problems because we
mm.
evolved from those. So it really, sometimes it can be easy, sometimes it can be insanely hard, and it's always depending on what's going on. And there isn't a one size fits solution, and that's one of the traps because everyone goes to the websites, everyone goes to these big gurus and to find a prepackaged answer. And you have to ask yourself, are you a prepackaged answer? And the answer is not for everyone. Some people are. And that's one of the traps of the spiritual business because you get these all these huge gurus. I'm not going to name them. You get these all these huge churches and stuff like that, and they're all doing the same thing. They're forcing a story onto you. Now, ironically, a lot of people want that. So I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's a common trap because there's a lot of people selling prepackaged deals. And you know what? A story is a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's got drama, it's got a conflict you have to grow past. And most people, to make the story process of their life easier, most people choose a prepackaged story over
Mm.
crafting a new, unique story. It's a lot harder to write that novel. It's a lot harder to start from fresh and experiment and make lots of mistakes.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with picking a prepackaged deal. I help people get back on track and go back into prepackaged deals all the time. But I also help people break free. And
Mm.
so the choice is not which is better. The truth is what fits your heart, what fits your needs, what fits your story, what fits your family. So you see, it's open-ended and everyone's unique. Your story is
Yeah.
similar process. You're breaking free and you're writing stuff more diversely now and opening up to your passions. And you discovered it's harder to do because culture doesn't want you to do that. They want you to package the same old story again. So
Yeah.
as soon as you begin to change, all of a sudden economically it becomes harder to survive. And that's
Mm.
a challenge we all face. It took me over 15 years to build up my site to be successful because it was different. So it's small and evolutionary based. That's why it's different. It's not professional because it's about the heart. It's not about the sales.
Right on, Casey.
So,
So I did think of a question, and it
mhm.
kind of ties into what you were just saying. Um, what would you say to your younger self or to a young person who can feel them getting caught in this prepackaged story? You know, like you,
My
I
answer.
think you do have some awareness of it. But
Um,
like, if you could go back and see this person that's like frustrated and struggling, like, what does this mean? You know,
well, the
what
funny
would you
thing
tell
is,
them?
I've been a Taoist and free range since I've been a little kid. Okay.
Hmm,
I was raised this way. And I'll share the story. When I was 18 and all my friends and I were going to college, since I already was free range and had everything, I didn't understand the nature of society 100% back then. And
hmm,
I saw society has all these patterns. I saw them. I said, well, society expects me to do certain things. So all my friends and I were sitting in a swimming pool late August, our last teenage time together. And one of the friends says, hey, what are we all going to be doing in the future? And they're all like wondering. And they looked at me and I go, well, society expects me to go to college, find a girl, get married, have a kid. And so I'm just going to try that because I don't know what it's like. And since society teaches us, I'm going to see what society is like. I literally said that to my friends. All my friends were like, whoa, because that's the last thing they expected me to say.
hmm.
And I did. I tried the standard story package. I did not like it. And if I had to do it again, I would tell the younger self, don't take the standard package. Now, most people actually, because on average, people want the standard package, there's nothing wrong with it.
Hmm.
Just wasn't quite the right package for me. So I would have told myself to do a certain change of packages. But other than that, I wouldn't have said much. Because when people are younger, they don't want to listen. Would I have listened to my older self back then? I'm not
No,
sure.
no. That's the conundrum. That's the
Yeah.
conundrum.
So
Yeah.
it was really funny because after college, there was this in the yearbook that everyone wrote down what they expect everyone to do. And everyone in my yearbook wrote, Casey will be at a waterfall being a guru at the ends of the earth. And I said, fuck that. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I just want to get my programming job. I just want to have a nice, simple thing where I don't have to worry about stuff. And
Really?
ironically, where am I today? I have a 60-foot waterfall in my yard. I'm on the world's largest mountain, being a guru of all
Hmm.
things, which is not what I expected, by the way.
Okay.
But I ended up being pushed into because I like helping people be in their essence.
Yeah. A director that I work with who I really respect, and is kind of a, um, you know, he's hardcore.
Hmm. A lot of them are.
So I respect his observation, but he called me a story guru. You were a story guru now. That's, just a couple weeks ago, and it's like, uh, at first I felt like, oh, honored, like that he would consider me that, but they're like, what is it? What is a guru? What are your guru responsibilities,
Well,
Casey?
guru, this is a all guru means is teacher.
Yeah.
That's it. And so all I do is I help people acknowledge how to live kindly.
Mm,
I teach based, see, the way we approach things, we're not counselors, even though we counsel, we actually are teachers.
mm.
And we teach using your life's challenges. In other words, the best time to improve your life is when you're exploding, when things are going sideways. Those are the teaching moments. And
Yeah.
that's all we do. When you are going through your greatest life challenge, and you know this because we did this with you, when you're going through those life challenges, we teach against it. And if you teach against it, it's fast, it's efficient, and gets you back on a new track pretty quickly. Because
Yeah.
now you're learning rather than taking steps back, rather than blaming yourself, rather than hitting each other. Rather, it's all become this material to
Mm.
grow into this blossoming new life. And it's efficient. So all
Yeah,
I'm
bro.
doing is teaching people against their problems. That's exactly right, bro.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and you say we. Do you mean your wife Julie, who
Yeah,
also does the work? And yeah,
we work together. Julie
yeah,
and I just help people live more kindly and solve their problems with their problems, and it comes together.
yeah.
But and over time, you get to. learn the different standard problems so you can spot them like that. So as soon as you spot the standard problems, you could redirect them relatively quickly, turns out.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you're going to love this, Mike, and your
Okay.
audience is going to love this. One of the standard problems is this. We're human. To be a human being is to hold a story. What happens when you have a story you don't like? Well, the problem is you're so enwrapped in the story, you don't see a way out. So what a lot of people choose to do is suicide, because
Mm,
if you end yourself, you end the story. And the answer is don't end yourself. Take 5 seconds to realize I want to change my story. That's why it's so easy to deflect suicide in 5 seconds, because you can realize, oh, I want to live. And if you give them a light for a new story, it directs them towards that new story.
mm.
Now, that story in nature, this is where it gets really interesting. We hold not one story, we hold dozens of stories, and they conflict with each other. And we're weaving these stories together. And the problem is, the secret is you hold the stories separately. Because as soon as those stories merge together, our vessel that holds the story overflows. And we lose elements of these different stories and they recombine into a new story.
Oh wait, okay,
And this comes,
you lost me there a little bit. You're gathering these stories, did you say? You
you
are,
live multiple stories at once. And if you
I
keep them
see.
separate, they're easy to prevent conflicts from happening them. But when you
Mm,
merge the stories together, they merge together in funky ways. They
okay.
merge together and lose elements because we can't hold 10 stories at once in our mind and our spirit all at once.
Mm,
And that's where a lot of the problems
mm.
come from. And
Yeah,
this is
okay.
where your blog, this talk comes into play, because
Mm,
the challenge is we have balancing survival versus what we want to do with our passion. And so we have to survive. So we have to keep the bits that keep us surviving, because if we don't, we fail.
yeah.
And we have to choose the most important bits of each story. So if I'm a banker, I am a husband, and I'm a father. Those are three different stories. Okay.
Mm,
Now, with those three stories, if I do them separately, it's easy to keep them separate. But when they merge together, they change. So I'm a banker. I make lots of money to survive. I'm a
mm,
husband. I love my wife, so I want her to grow. I am a father. I love my children and I want them to grow, but their growth is different than my partner's growth. But when those stories merge together, it becomes, see, when I'm a husband, the story is I love my wife. I want her to be more, right? But when these
mm.
stories combine, it means because you have to survive, I love my wife, so I make lots of money.
Okay. So,
And now
so,
the story is different.
oh, I see. Okay, so it's just these influences in your life that can merge these stories as you're going along.
And then the new
And
merge story often is in conflict with really what you need to do.
I see. Yeah. Wow, what a
And you
great
hear that all the
illustration.
time. And
Yeah.
you hear this all the time where people go, I love my wife, I make money for her. And the wife goes, I don't need the money, I need you. How many times
Yeah.
have you heard that story in real life? All the time, where the husband's like, I'm confused, I'm doing this for her, but she doesn't
Mm.
want me to do it because she wants to spend more time with me. And but I have to work because if I don't, we don't survive.
Um,
You hear that all the time.
yes, but it's tough now, even with my older friends, because the industry is at a stall.
Hmm.
So the anxiety of like um, managing your that hunger for survival is kind of
Hmm.
really crazy, you know?
Yes.
Especially in these slow times where your mind is just like you need to work, you need to work, you need to, you know, um, and then relaxing out of that is really hard.
Hmm.
But then
Since we help.
and then I'm a little worried maybe I'm getting too relaxed.
Well, that's a problem. First
Yeah.
of all, everyone's having this problem in today's times. We're helping
Mm.
people more than ever rebalance the economics and job-based aspects, because it's the craziest job market I've ever seen in the 30 years I've been doing this. And it's causing a lot of problems because all the patterns have changed. And so,
Oh
for
yeah.
instance, if you're over 35 years old, ageism hits even if you're over 35 now, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But there's all these problems in the survival for working because the industries have changed so much.
Yes. So this is an example, like in a broad sense, of merging stories, right? Causing
Hmm.
turmoil.
The
But,
external story of how
yeah.
companies work and the
Mm,
stories how we used to work are different. And it's causing
yes.
conflict and they're merging together in a bad way, which is why now we're getting quiet quitting, which is why we're getting
Wow.
the silent the change in the marketplace where a lot of workers are going, I'm going to Portugal and I'm not going to do this anymore. So it
Right.
is a big shift on both sides of the fence.
Wow. Um, and that's got to
So
be a somewhat of a cycle, right? In industry and human, existence. Uh,
it can be a cycle, and we
yeah.
are at a big change point in history. Make no mistake, with climate change, politics,
Mm,
dynamics of current politics, totally different game than we've ever seen before. And so everything we were raised with, all the stories we were living against, are not really valid for these future times. And everyone's getting a little bit upset over that because their patterns, their stories aren't matching the needs, which makes it harder to survive because now your skills aren't correct to survive because all the skills you've been taught the last 60 years are wrong
mm.
because of these transitions that are actually happening right now.
Yeah, and I could see if we're using the merging story analogy, um, one story that's kind of merging now, it's like it's a kind of an unknown what will it be story is AI,
Hmm.
you know, and how it's almost like telling us a story.
And that is a problem. AI is
Yeah.
great. I'm a former tech person, built a lot of computer systems, yada, yada, yada. So I'm on top with AI. AI is a great tool, but it's also a problem at the same time because people, on average, I could tell you even the exact number, 67% of people don't want to write their own story. 67% of people want their story prepackaged.
Mm-mm.
And there's nothing wrong with that because prepackaged stories are more efficient and they give you less problems. And there are a lot of people who sell stories, okay? The problem is 67% of people prefer a prepackaged story,
Mm.
okay?
Yeah.
Now, there is a problem with AI. If you connect the dots, more and more people will go to AI to get their story.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
And they're going, AI, give me the story. How do I do this? How do I do this? So AI is giving them a new story plot line. They're giving a new script.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, AI is not necessarily wired with the way it's been developed to be, how am I going to say this? AI can be as biased as we are because depending how it's trained, it gets biases from its training, just like we do. And so there can be some hidden traps in that. So it's both a great tool if you use it, but it's also a harder tool because you need to also be willing to modify the script it gives you.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a quote from Paul Schrader, the director that I read today, who says, a lot of people are pushing back because he says, like, I just told ChatGPT to write me a script based on my style and write
Hmm.
an entertaining story, and it worked. He was impressed and he thought it was original, and then he typed in some other directors in there and it wrote a pretty good version of what that director would do.
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
so, so I was thinking about that very thing. It's like you still need the original stories, that that either the AI is could generate or manufacture even. You still need the sources of those, prompts. Does
Exactly.
that make any sense?
It does. Let me take what you said and expand it a little bit.
Hmm.
AI is generative. It's based on the data you put into it.
Hmm.
So it's not going to be original. It's going to be generative.
Yeah.
It's going to be variations. Now, let's be honest, a lot of the stuff in the market, a lot of people's lives are they are generative. So it will be good for taking care of 70% of business. But it's missing one critical piece because each person has a spark of chaos. Each person has a spark of individuality.
Hmm.
And even if a person decides not to use it, that's okay because that spark of chaos is still there. The one thing that AI is missing is that spark of chaos because we can't replicate chaos with AI or computers because they're orderly processes.
Right. Spark
As a
of chaos.
physicist, as a physicist, there's a difference between order and chaos because that's the way I was trained as an engineer and physicist and mathematician. Those are my
Mm.
trainings.
Mm.
So the one thing AI can't do is be chaotic. It could imitate chaos, but it can't be chaotic. Now, the truly creative people, the ones who create something original, are using their spark of individuality, that spark of chaos, to be that.
Mm. Yeah. Prisoner's dilemma right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the problem because AI is so easy
Yeah.
and so many people will use it. That flood could also flood out those sparks of originality too.
Mm.
And so there is interesting nuance there. Um, we will always, I think, truly love the people who are truly creative in the ultimate sense of things. Like Van Gogh, 100 years afterwards, everyone loved him, right? But not at the time because he broke the standards. And so that chaos allows you to break the standards. We're living in a time of chaos. We've just crossed order, negative order into chaotic moments right now. And that chaos, people don't like chaos because we're orderly beings. We're 90% order, only a spark of chaos. Because too much chaos, we can't hold ourselves together.
Mm.
And we're entering slightly more chaotic times, more unpredictability. So that's going to push people more towards AI, more towards predictability, ironically enough. So we're in this
Yes.
interesting dynamic right now where it's not predictable how it's going to play out. Don't try to predict it. The solution, and everyone listening, this is important. The solution is don't predict what's about to happen, evolve against what's happening. Use
Mm.
it to be creative, use it to evolve and take advantage of openings that happen. So it's more dynamic. It's a little bit pro-dynamically, proactively evolving through the moments of chaos rather than rejecting it or overly embracing it.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yeah. 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 Yes. Uh, what it made me think of is you know, going through the transition. So let's look at the other side of the transition, kind of out of society, what's expected from you.
Hmm.
Um, that is scary because it kind of is a prime example of you just don't know what's going to happen in the future, you know?
Hmm.
Once you start coming out of this bubble that you were in, or I'm just using my personal
Right.
experience, but the unknown is like it takes a while to get comfortable with the unknown. Um,
Hmm.
and so yeah,
And in Taoism, you embrace the unknown because the unknown is Tao. The unknown is you
yeah,
because without the unknown, you can't be an individual.
yeah,
And so these times are awakening the potential to be more individual than ever before. But you have the dynamic and the challenge of surviving against it also, because surviving requires you to conform to some degrees, because our culture values conformity and pays for conformity a lot more than people realize.
mm,
So that is going a lot. So that's why
right,
you're
right,
doing
right,
this
right.
podcast, because you're hitting on one of the main themes of our times, that balance.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
it's it's tippy right. Yeah, it feels tippy right now. It's like
yeah.
whoa, which way it's gonna go? Yeah.
And so we're going to see more creativeness than ever.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to be a lot of really beautiful new ways of using it. So AI won't introduce chaos. Where the chaos will come from is a person who is chaotically using AI to add their dash of chaos into the AI project, and that will create something totally new.
Hmm.
So AI doesn't replace us because it can't replace the one thing we have that it doesn't, that spark of individuality, that spark of chaos. If you merge that with AI, oh boy, lots of cool stuff will be developed from that.
Right. And will we be half like mechanical
Who
at a
knows?
certain point? We
Chaotic.
don't know.
I'm not, I predicted the politics of today back in 2004, and I was right on track. I,
Mm.
and everything up till now has been very predictable.
Mm.
And as you well know, I've been helping my students be ready for today, just as I helped you be ready for today. So I could tell you now, all those predictions I made, there's only one left, the collapse of Russia by the end of by 2030. And I made that one
Oh
in
God.
2017. All this stuff is pretty predictable. But
Mm-hmm.
now, because we're crossing into a chaotic stage, it's no longer predictable because chaotic events will impact things in chaotic ways and spin them sideways. So now we have to embrace Tao, the unknown, and instead of worrying about where it goes, we evolve with it. We use it. We're not
Mm.
wasting our energy making predictions. We're using our energy to evolve with it.
Okay. Is that
And
kind of
so
like living in the future rather than is that being present basically?
being
Or
present with a
yeah,
dash of the future. See, it's not living in the future because we can't predict the future. Because for
yeah.
90% of human history, the future looks like the past. So most people predict the future based on the past.
Hmm.
So when the past and the future are about the same, really it's just flipping from future to past or past to future, and it's just repeating itself. At chaotic points, the future really steps into a new path.
Hmm.
So if you're in the future, what happens if you're in the wrong future, right? So it
Yeah.
really means being present, not in the past, not in the future. It means being present to evolve. Yes. So it's more of an in the now type mindset.
Yeah. Well, so that reminds me, if there's one last thing that we can talk about,
Hmm.
um, and oh yeah, that's what it was. Oh well, who's the food writer from the used to be the New York Times? He did How to Change Your Mind is the book,
Hmm.
and he talks about this study how we're always living in the future. You know the way our brain works, because it's a constant prediction machine.
Yes,
It
we are.
really
We
is
do.
hard. It's a for
Hmm.
When I read that, I got what being present and living in the moment kind of meant. It can be fractions of a second.
Hmm.
Uh, if those studies are true, you know.
Well,
It-
it's okay. Let me expand what you just said because here's some truths I've discovered over the last 30 years of doing this. And a lot of these are the teachings I evolved based on working with people, thousands of people over 30 years. One, everyone has a time, I call it a time zone. Everyone has a default time zone. About, on average, more people live in the past than the future. So
mm,
let's say a standard deviation of the population is more past oriented. That's 67%. Then the next biggest grouping are the people who live in the future, predict the future, and then profit against that. And then you have the smallest portion of people living in the now. Okay. The reason living in the past is so powerful is because most of the future is based on the past. So by holding on to the past, it allows you to hold old patterns, um, traditions, which reinforce the past, which reinforce the way to work. So being past oriented actually is very beneficial for survival. Being future oriented also beneficial for survival because if you could predict the changes, you could profit against it and make money and survive, right? And if most of the future is based on the past, well, again, most of the future people are past oriented without realizing it. They're just using the past to predict the future. Isn't that crazy?
what?
It kind of ends up that a lot of people are more past oriented than people realize. That's why I'm trying to show you.
Mm, sure, 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 sure.
And so, for instance, I was able to predict everything up till about now with 95% accuracy back in between 97 and 2004
Hmm.
because of the past is very predictable. So I predicted the 2008 collapse, 7 collapse back in 97. Why? Because cycles are predictable.
Sure,
Now
sure.
we're at a point where we're chaotic, they're not predictable.
Hmm.
So a lot of people are futurists are going to get it wrong. A lot of people are past are going to get it wrong. So that's why being in the now is so important. So yes, we are prediction machines. We live in potential. And I teach how to work with potential. That's a sense. To use potential as a sense. We have many senses, more than 5. We have over 33 physical senses. We also have senses to explore the mind and senses to explore spirit. And one of those senses is potential. And we're wired to see potential. But potential's not real until it activates. And right now, what can activate is more open-ended, which means there's more room to use our spark and individuality to be creative,
Yeah.
which
That's hopeful.
means
That's a hopeful message too, right?
that is hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's more room than ever to be creative with our individuality, despite AI, despite the fears, despite anything. There's more room to break out of tradition and to do new now than ever before, which is chaotic because it will break the patterns,
Mm.
ironically enough. So the truth is, don't be a prediction machine. Embrace potential. Give potential energy, test it. And if it feels like it's got legs, run with it. If it doesn't feel it has legs, then back off. Don't burn yourself out, but pace yourself. Because the trouble is, potential feels real. And so if you give it more and more of your energy, it feels more real. So give it some of your energy, but not so much that you burn out. So it's going to be a smart pacing that
Mm.
makes it work.
Yeah, the burnout is a real thing. I'd love to
Hmm.
talk. I would love if maybe if we do another episode, Casey, I would love to talk about burnout from a healing um,
Exactly.
nature, from attitude of like, try to
Because
avoid these things and
yes.
before you
And let
get
me just touch that for a second.
okay.
Burnout's really common because people burn out in midlife because they push too hard or they burn out. And the problem with burnout is the following. It gives you a new baseline. And the
Mm,
baseline is a little lower than your previous place. Now, to be whole, to heal is to make whole. So healing is to make whole. So the problem with burnout is people try to heal back in their previous state. And the trap of burnout is you can't heal to your previous state. You have to actually rebalance to the new place you're at and then heal to that new wholeness.
mm,
So there's a trick in healing burnout. It's really hard to work with because the trick is not to get trapped in the way you used to be, but discover the new way you are. And then you discover new efficiencies to make up for the differences.
mm.
So it's tricky. Yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
nother talk though.